Unless you've been living under the proverbial rock, you have probably already watched a few videos related to Sora, the new um, Chat GPT, the new AI product that's just come out actually in the last 48 hours. So Elon has already been chatting about this on X. He's already posted a few times talking about the fact that Tesla already has this capability, the ability to do video in a 2D world using 3D physics. And it's pretty complicated to understand. But he says, hey, we've been doing this for a year. It just didn't matter that much because we were using it in a way that was boring. So anyway, this is what he says today, though. He's responding to at Scoblizer, Scobleizer. He says, where Tesla video generation exceeds OpenAI is that it predicts extremely accurate physics because that is essential for self-driving. Elon continues to claim that what Sora is doing is now. Tesla was doing better a year ago. So this brings some significant questions that this channel has been asking for a couple of months now. And I think it's time to bring those questions up again. But I found this article on Tech AU that I thought he did a really, really good job of explaining where we are today at this moment, and also what the issues are that maybe need to be addressed. So here's what he says. He says, OpenAI shocked the world this week with a new text-to-video model called Sora. In response to a video about Sora, Elon Musk says that Tesla's been doing real-world photorealistic video generation with accurate physics. That's the key part, accurate physics, for about a year. However, this has only been used internally, according to Tesla, as part of their development of FSD. Musk goes on to explain that the use of this AI-powered generative video was only trained on video from the fleet. In other words, it was only getting the video incoming from the fleet, not going out into YouTube or into other places to get video content, because that's what they were using it to train the FSD model. The videos created, they look similar to what we see from Tesla's dash cam video, and therefore was not impressive as what Sora offers, according to Musk. Tesla is currently compute constrained, he went on to say, which may explain why FSD version 12 which is based on end-to-end video training, is not rolling out as rapidly as we'd all like to have it roll out. So I'm paraphrasing sometimes here, or adding my own content in the middle. About 100 people outside the company have now, received full self-driving version 12. And that's 6 months after we first saw Musk live stream about a drive. Musk suggests they certainly could build something similar to Sora later this year when they have some spare capacity. Tesla's announced previously that they were not only investing in their own hardware with Dojo, but also buying as many H100s from NVIDIA as they could possibly get their hands on. The total investment is measured in billions of dollars annually. So here's where things get a little confusing. Musk started X.AI last year, and by November, they released their first product, Grok, a large language model that would compete with OpenAI's ChatGPT. Grok was integrated into Musk's other company, X.com, formerly Twitter, as a service users, so the service users could interact with it, giving it text prompts. And it requires a premium subscription on X to access. If Tesla is now going to create a service for AI-powered generative video to compete with OpenAI's Sora, currently unreleased to the public, then this is likely to create confusion as to why one service is from X.AI and another is from Tesla. Will this also be available on X.com? Will it be an expansion of Grok's capabilities or a whole new service with a new name? Ultimately, this sounds like a battle of who owns the compute required to achieve this. Well, that's only part of it. Who owns the intellectual property? Who owns the kind of the overall marketing and analysis and the plans for the names and how it's going to be marketed? Anyway, he goes on to say, while the hardware and infrastructure required to create Grok is not small, It is owned by X.AI. The hardware and infrastructure required for FSD development is owned by Tesla. If Tesla is to overbuy to facilitate AI side projects, this is likely to show up in Tesla's services revenue, and we should expect questions from shareholders around the scope of new endeavors outside of the FSD focus. I think the best possible outcome here is this will sound familiar. If you watch this channel all the time, this is going to sound really, really familiar. I not only said it myself, but we've had a couple of our guests who have said it as well. I think Brian White, for one, maybe others. He says, I think the best possible outcome here is to formalize the agreement between these three Musk-owned companies and allow them to leverage the hardware and software and services from one another. It should not be, in my opinion, a loose idea of we're going to do this and send it to you and we'll have you do this for us. And I mean, we've had those loose agreements between SpaceX and Tesla for a long time. I think there's some of that's also going between Neuralink and Tesla. We certainly got those situations going between X.AI and X.com. And also, undoubtedly, we're looking at Grok coming down to Tesla and being used on the vehicles and on the bot. Lots and lots of stuff, cross stuff going every which darn direction. And yes, it is possible to do the bookkeeping on that and keep all that separate. I've done it myself when I've had multiple companies doing business with one another, but this is at a really high level and much more complex. And it just would be better, I think, if it was really formalized. Anyway, there are certainly additional AI use cases at Tesla. For example, improving voice recognition. This needs a lot of work. And the company leveraging AI in their energy division for their auto bidder services. AI is clearly going to be an increasing part of our lives, our cars, our social media. But this structure certainly needs some cleanup, as the potential revenues that could be derived from success here will not be small. Yeah, okay, I get that. So what do you guys think? Do you think there needs to be some formal understanding? Do you think there needs, we suggested another thing would be, I think, again, I can't remember for sure if it was Brian White, but one of my guests suggested that Tesla should own, say, 20% of X.AI and maybe own some part of X.com as well. Maybe they should actually purchase some of that stock, which would generate some of the capital needed, or maybe they purchase it with other intellectual property or with certain rights to use the dojo. Anyway, lots of possibilities there, but I think it should be formalized. Okay, this is Randy Kirk, by the way. Please hit like, subscribe, and notify. You know, of course, Brian White will be on tomorrow around noon. We'll have Larry Goldberg helping me to talk about the Tuesday to Friday this week. You know, it's going to be good, or it's going to be Tuesday morning will be the name of the show this week. And Larry's going to help me with that show for the first time. We'll talk about all of the reporting that's going to be coming up, which is going to include a lot of stuff. One of those things will be, I don't know, NVIDIA's earnings is going to come up next week. All right. And then, of course, buy some Cybertruck bottle openers and join Patreon. Those things will be appreciated. All right. Tesla Roddy says this. In a video on YouTube from Brad Sloan over the weekend, you can count over 50 Cybertruck units at the facility, which is quite a bit more than we've witnessed in recent drone footage of the factory. Spread across Tesla's new outbound lot and its testing and calibration area, you can see at least a couple of massive rows of Cybertrucks lined up, along with others being loaded to be shipped away from the factory. So seeing 50 at one time on the grounds, you know, it's very possible that you're talking about that lot being loaded up several times a day and then being taken away and then being loaded again, etc. So it looking good for the Tesla ramp at this point is what Tesla Roddy was basically trying to say. All right, then we've got in the general economic news, we've got a couple of things for you. Number one is Truflation today is at 1.66. But that number is after another 0.5 or 0.5% revision higher last week, which when they made the revision, which went back over, I think, about a 2-week period, they went back and revised the entire 2 weeks up by about this 0.5%. And I was very upset about that again, because it's the second time they've done it. So But even after they made that change, where I think we were sitting at about 1.35 area when they made the change, bumped it up to about 3.85. But since then, it's come down to 1. Did I say 3? Let me start over again. It was at about 1.35. It went up to 1.85. But even since then, it's come down now to about 1.66. So we're still seeing a very significant downward trend. If we were using the old database, I think we'd be sitting at 1.15 right now. So this has been worrisome to me. I get anxious about this because they keep adding more data. That's great. But each time they add data, all of a sudden we get this revision. And then what are we supposed to think about their previous estimates and their previous thought patterns and their analysis? I haven't been that thrilled with their analysis anyway. But last week, they went out on a limb and predicted CPI at 2.5, and they missed it by 0.7. I mean, it was just really a miss. 0.6, 0.7, when did CPI come in at 3.1 or 3.2? Anyway, they missed it by a whole bunch. I guess they missed it by 0.6%. Well, okay, so now they raise it by 0.5 after they missed by 0.6. I don't know. It just makes me a little anxious. Anyway, I do believe Truflation has by far the best data, way better data than the CPI. I think the government should probably be using them instead of the data that they're getting themselves for the CPI. But the trend is what I'm looking at here. It's always about the trend, okay? So Yahoo compiles some recent economic data from time to time. They put it like a bunch of it together in one place. Sometimes it's okay, and I don't pay that much attention to it, or I look at it, I think not that useful. But a couple of times, actually, this is the second time that I thought they really did a good job, and I thought that it would be worth taking you through the entire list of what they're, well, or most of the list of what they're doing. So I'm going to share my screen right now. So let's start with total retail and food service sales. We already had mentioned that that dropped by 0.8%. But now we take a look here at what it looks like on a chart, and you can see that the trend has been flattening out for a while over here. So this is something I think that is worth paying attention to. Plus, they added this color to it down here. They say that the categories that are driving weakness include building materials, cars and parts, gas stations, health and personal care, and online retailing. Furniture, restaurants and bars, grocery and department stores saw gains. So interesting, restaurants and bars, grocery, department stores all showing gains, but we've talked, and furniture even, that's a big one. But interesting what is going up and what is going down. Anyway, then we're showing Morgan Stanley says the retail stores, our view that the economy is strong but cooling. Now we have some credit card data. Okay, and on the credit card data suggests that spending is holding up, as we see here on this chart, that the credit card purchases are staying above the zero, increasing, in other words, month over month. And we're continuing to see that there's spending on the credit cards going up. Then we have industrial activity, cooling. Well, it's been cold already, so we have the zero is the ratio scale is 2017 output equals 100. So right now we have got capacity sitting up here about 120, almost 130, and we've got actual use sitting down here close to 100. So, and you can see it's been flat for quite a long time here. To give you the dates here, you're looking at 2020 through 2025 years. So this is a very short, you're looking at what do I want to say? This is not month by month, it's month by month, but you can't really tell what's going on month by month. You can just see that overall, this has not been this is not a good looking chart when it comes to manufacturing, all right? Then we have some inflation information here. We, of course, saw the CPI was up 3.1 from a year ago. We just talked about that a minute ago. And then we had core sitting at 3.9, which was even. But again, you can see what's going on here. So this would start to look like what you'd expect based on what a lot of the economists are talking about, that it's going to be hard to get that last couple of percent. You can see that it was a very steep drop off. You had a very steep increase, then a very steep decrease, and then it's starting to level off, but it's leveling off up here rather than leveling off down here where it had been for many, many, many months. So this is a good graphic to see what folks have been talking about. You also are seeing the difference between, of course, the core and the headline. So then on a month-by-month basis, CPI was up 0.3%, core was up 0.4%. So this shows a beginning of an increasing trend here. Again, this is CPI. I'm not very trustworthy of CPI right now, but even when you look at the month over month, it's still in a much better place than we had it, and looks like it's really in pretty good shape. If you annualize the 3-month trend, though, however, and this is what the Fed says, they actually annualize the 6-month trend, but here we're annualizing the 3-month trend. You can see that the CPI was raising at 2.8, core was still at that 4% rate, but the 2.8% rate would be very, very close to what the Fed would be happy with. The core, shockingly, staying up there at around 4%. And again, this is the CPI where the core still considers housing, and it becomes like 40% of what they're looking at. Anyway, then we go down to national gas price comparison. This is pretty interesting. We've just had a little uptick in gasoline prices because of a shutdown of one of the major gasoline plants. But overall, you can see the gasoline is at really reduced levels. Here's, where we were in 22, 23, but you can see coming down here, even as before we get into the gas driving season again, we are at very low lows. And of course, oil is down. And so it's probably going to hang in there. We've got mortgage rates sitting at 6.77. And that's really good. I mean, if we look at this historically, as you know, I have a lot of background in the real estate area with several clients over the years, big time. I mean, we're talking about seriously. By the way, Bill Raymond's information is still down there. If you're interested in getting a mortgage right now, it's a great time to call Bill. His phone has been ringing off the hook. So this is a very good time to call him. He's having a great year. But Bill Raymond is the best mortgage broker you're going to find. But having the mortgages back down under 7% on a 30-year mortgage is pretty darn amazing. And on 15, you can get down to 6.12. Of course, you can buy down your mortgages. If 6.77 sounds too high, but you've got the cash, you can buy down the mortgage and get it even lower. All right. And then you've got, whoops, I don't want to, the advertisement was not where I wanted to go. Okay. So we have new residential construction, and new home construction fell. You may remember, if you watched the show the other day, we talked about this. It was a big shock, but it was probably weather related. But new residential construction fell in the past month, and permits also fell. I'm expecting this to shoot back up quite handily as we get into the new year, because with mortgage rates coming down and expected to come down more, these builders are probably going to start building. Now, one of the things I didn't talk about the other day is this huge increase in the available apartment space. Always keep into consideration, if you care about this, analyzing this stuff, that apartments and housing, these are all housing, okay? And I mean, residential housing and apartments, it's all housing. So when you have the prices coming down on rents, that is going to cause people who are on that margin, on considering, should I buy or should I rent? I'm renting, I'm thinking about buying, and all of a sudden, oh, my rent's going to go down next year, or I can get this apartment with three free months to move in and stuff. All of a sudden, well, maybe I'm going to wait another year before I buy. As you know, everything in economics happens on the margins. You get a lot of marginal players who've decided not going to get into a new house this year because mortgages are still too high, prices are still too high, and all of a sudden rents are lower. That is going to have an impact on the market. So I've been saying that residential housing could be single-family dwellings could be a savior for the economy this year, and that these guys will start building a bunch of them, and that prices will continue up. With that oversupply of rental housing right now, that is all up in the air again. I'll be watching it carefully, and I'll provide you with updates as we see more information. Inflation expectations was really a good number this week. This is the Consumer Confidence Index, and inflation expectations dropped and are at some of the lowest levels, well, at the lowest levels since the pandemic. And so this was really good news in terms of where we're headed later this year. And let's see if was there more here. I seem to have hit a bottom, or I just can't move the screen. I don't know what's going on here. Why isn't the screen moving? Okay, I must have, maybe I hit, something is just wrong. Oh, probably my face is in the way of the thing that says done. And now we can move down. All right, here we go. So consumers also feel better about their situation. So in rating their household financial situation, you can see a very nice beginning of a trend line here where people are feeling better and better about their personal finances, and also feeling better about future inflation. So that is a good in terms of predicting where we might be going in the marketplace this year. And then consumer sentiment improved. It's improving dramatically. We are still sitting here way below the 100 level, in the 75 range. So we're not back to really, really good numbers. By the way, take a look at this in terms of the year. So you see where we were at the bottom of the pandemic, and we've come back a long way. But look at this is where we were, pre-pandemic. So a long way to getting to something really, really good. And the optimism, this is the Small Business Optimism Index. I always report on this, and I'm wondering if this is from a few weeks ago. They said it was from last week, and I must have missed it. So this is a brand new one. These are the small business optimism deteriorated. And you can see that here is it was down right here. See, it's been kind of flat for quite a long time. This is 22, 23, 24. You can see now that it's trending downward again. So small businesses are now going, you know what? Things are starting to get a little nervous again. I really need to go back and see what else was on that list. And this was, he says the hard, tangible components of the index continue to hold up better than the soft components. So things like optimism, hard would be job creation plans, job openings, inventory plans, earnings, capital expenditures. Soft would be expected business conditions, outlook for expansion, expected retail sales. So those are the soft ones, and those components have dropped radically, whereas the more hard ones are sitting up a little firmer here. All right, I think that might be okay. Then we've got job claims. The unemployment claims, as you know, have been really flat. Here, this is now this is a month-by-month situation, and as you know, this has been extremely flat. We're not seeing anything yet in the jobs market which would indicate that other than cooling, fewer job openings, and some of those job openings are not that strong. And I think we're also probably seeing higher paying jobs are where the layoffs are occurring, and maybe lower paying jobs are where the new jobs are coming in. We're seeing less hours worked, weekly hours worked, and we're also seeing a lot of part-time work compared to full-time work. Also seeing a lot of government work, not in industry work. So all of those, overall, the job thing is a little troubling right now. It's something to keep our eye on. And then monthly business applications. Look at this jump. Well, I mean, jump compared to pre-pandemic. So lots of folks getting into business for themselves. Now, when does that generally happen? In my experience, that generally happens when people are having a hard time finding a job they like. So these are a lot of people that have home businesses, are possibly buying businesses because they're not very satisfied with the job they have. And then the evolution of the Atlanta Fed's GDP now, their estimate. Now, by the way, these Fed estimates on GDP are horrible. Their track record is just terrible. But they're now estimating the I'm sorry, their estimate is a 2.9 rate in Q1, and that would be strong. I mean, there'd be nothing wrong with a 2.9% rate. The blue chip consensus doesn't believe it at all. The blue chip consensus right now has got the GDP only at around 1% coming up in the first quarter. So, putting it all together, they continue to feel evidence to experience a bullish Goldilocks soft landing where inflation cools to manageable levels without the economy having to sink into recession. Okay, well, there you go. That is Yahoo's analysis. I thought that was interesting. I hope you did too. They put it together in a compelling way. By the way, this morning I put together a video that addressed, there's a bunch of folks whining out there, a bunch of people in the Tesla community that are whining, and the whining always shows up, when we're sitting with Tesla at low, when Tesla stock gets to low points. But what I wanted to do, my goal in the video was to show clearly that whether you are a day trader, a short-term trader, a medium to long-term trader, or whether you are a buy and hold forever trader, it's a great time to buy Tesla stock. I went into great detail about that. I had a lot of very nice comments, a lot of people saying it was maybe one of the best ever on the channel. So you may want to go back and take a look at that. I will leave you a card as always. And if you haven't yet hit the like button, this is a perfect time to do that. And then hitting subscribe and notify are always helpful. And then the most helpful thing you can do, join Patreon. The second most helpful thing you can do, buy a Cybertruck bottle opener. It won't just be helpful to me, it'll be helpful to you, because if you have it as something to show other people or have it as a gift to give away, you're going to make people happy because it's a very happy little gift. All right. Tomorrow morning, you know what happens. Brian White in the morning, well, early, midday, and Larry Goldberg at night. It's going to be a great, and then the regular show, of course, in the morning, a opening bell with yours truly, just me. Okay, see you all day tomorrow. It's been great talking to you.